So what do you think it takes to land a job where the commute is, 250,000 miles? The office is a total vacuum, and one tiny mistake could be your last? Becoming an astronaut has got to be one of the toughest hiring processes on the planet, and China's program is right up there at the top. So let's dive into this ultimate job interview and find out what it really takes to become a taikonaut.
Okay, right out of the gate, you need to understand the sheer physical challenge of this job. This isn't just theory, it's a brutal, body-crushing reality. That quote you're seeing, that's from Yang Liwei, the very first person China sent into space. He's talking about the centrifuge, a machine that simulates the insane gravitational forces of a rocket launch. And believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. To give you an idea of the odds we're talking about, for China's first group of astronauts, they started with over 1,500 of the absolute best fighter pilots in the country. After all the screening, only about 1 in 100 of those top pilots even met the basic requirements. The whole point is to find that tiny fraction of people who have the physical and psychological strength to handle the absolute extreme. So how does China actually create this elite group of space explorers? Well, it's a very careful, deliberate process that has grown and changed right alongside the country's space ambitions, from just getting one person into orbit to having a permanent space station.
Before we get any deeper, here's a quick language lesson, because it's pretty cool. The official term in Mandarin is Hang Tian Yuan, and the translation is just beautiful, space navigator. Now, you've probably heard the word taikonaut more often. That just comes from the Mandarin word for space, taikang. So you'll hear us use both as we go through their journey. What's so interesting about this timeline is that it tells a story. Look back in 1998. It was all elite military pilots. Makes sense for the early days. Then in 2010, a huge step forward with the first female astronauts. But here's where things get really interesting. Look at 2020 and 2024. Suddenly, you've got flight engineers, scientists, and even specialists from Hong Kong and Macau. This tells you it's not just about flying the ship anymore, it's about doing serious, complex science in space.
And this is what that new, modern team looks like. It's basically broken down into 3 different jobs. You've still got your space pilots. These are the veteran flyers with the right stuff. Then you have flight engineers, who are the technical wizards from the aerospace world. And finally, the payload specialists. These are the dedicated scientists, a lot of them with PhDs, who are in charge of all the experiments happening up there.
So how do you actually get one of these jobs? Well, it's a multi-year marathon, a real gauntlet with 3 main stages. First is just a basic screening. Then, if you make it through that, comes the reselection, which involves some really intense medical and psych evaluations. For the handful of people left standing, they face the final tests, seeing how their bodies actually hold up in simulated space environments.
But here's the thing. Passing the selection process is just the beginning. Now the real work starts. We're talking about a multi-year training program designed to prepare you for absolutely anything. Because before you can survive in space, you have to prove you can survive the worst conditions right here on Earth.
And all of this happens at the Astronaut Center of China, the ACC, in Beijing. You should think of this place as more than just a school. It's a world-class lab that develops everything from the suits they wear to the food they eat. It's really no wonder they call it the cradle of China's space heroes.
The whole training program is incredibly structured, usually taking about 4 years. That first year, it's all about hitting the books. We're talking over 800 hours of just theory. Then, for the next 3 years, you're getting your hands dirty, learning the specific skills you'll need. And woven through all of it, every single day, is nonstop physical and psychological conditioning.
All right, now for the fun stuff. Let's start with the centrifuge. Remember that quote from the beginning? This is the machine he was talking about. It spins you around at terrifying speeds to get your body ready for the launch, which can hit 8 Gs. That's like having 8 people sitting on your chest. And the craziest part, you can't just black out. You have to stay conscious and perform tasks. It's just wild.
Okay, so from crushing gravity, we go to pretty much no gravity. Next, they go for a swim. But this is no day at the pool. They get into a full, bulky spacesuit and spend 6 or 7 hours underwater in a gigantic tank that has a life-size model of the space station in it. It's the best way on Earth to simulate the weightless feeling of a spacewalk, or EVA, so they can practice really complex repairs. But what if something goes wrong on the way home? What if your capsule lands way off course, in the middle of nowhere? Well, they train for that too. They literally drop astronauts into some of the most hostile places on the planet with limited gear and tell them to survive for 48 hours until help arrives. And they prepare for every possibility. They run drills in the middle of the desert, learning to deal with scorching heat and bitter cold.
They do sea survival, practicing how to escape a capsule that's bobbing around in the ocean. And one of the newer ones is cave survival, spending almost a week in the complete, total darkness of a deep cave.
And this quote from astronaut Tang Hongbo, it just says it all. This training isn't just about physical toughness, it's about what's going on in your head. The cave training is designed to get them ready for the sensory deprivation and psychological stress of a long mission into deep space, pushing their minds to the absolute limit.
So why? Why all this insane preparation? Well, the goal is to be able to live and work aboard the Tiangong space station. Its name means Heavenly Palace, and it's China's permanent home in low Earth orbit.
A typical day up there isn't just floating around and taking cool pictures. It's scheduled down to the minute. As you can see, the biggest chunk of their time is dedicated to scientific research. But look at the rest. A huge part of their day is just keeping the station running, plus critical exercise to stop their muscles and bones from wasting away.
And this is where all that training finally pays off. They're not just passengers. They have to be scientists, mechanics, and robotic arm operators all rolled into one. One minute they're doing a complex experiment, the next they're on a spacewalk fixing something. They are constantly running drills for any emergency you can think of. They are the lifeblood of the Heavenly Palace.
Now, the Tiangong space station is an incredible achievement, but it's not the final destination. It's more like a stepping stone. China is already training for the next giant leap, landing humans back on the moon.
And that brings up a really fascinating question, right? The moon is a totally different beast than orbiting the Earth. So if the goal is to land there by 2030, how in the world do you get astronauts ready for a place nobody has walked on in over 50 years?
Well, the training has to completely change. On the space station, it's all about zero gravity. For the moon, you have to master moving in 1/6 gravity. Instead of just maintaining a station, you have to become a field geologist and explorer. You're not just operating a robotic arm, you're driving a lunar rover. And you have to be way more self-reliant, because home is a lot farther away.
To get ready for these new challenges, they're building some amazing tech on the ground. This includes something they actually call an artificial moon. It's a facility that uses powerful magnetic fields to simulate the moon's low-gravity environment. It lets them literally test out their tools and techniques for the lunar surface before they even leave Earth.
You know, from the crushing forces of a centrifuge to the silent, total darkness of a cave, and soon to the dusty surface of the moon, the journey of an astronaut is just a story of enduring one extreme after another. It really makes you wonder, as we start looking toward Mars and beyond, what's the next crucible we're going to design? And what new limits will we ask the next generation of explorers to push?